loves, my name is Amber, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be discussing the Curated Closet, a simple system for discovering your personal style and building your dream wardrobe by Anuschka Rees. Anuschka Rees is a fashion blogger that decided to write an entire book with a curation of all of her tips and tricks to curating your own personal closet and maintaining it throughout your life. Whether you just want a little bit of a refresher on your own personal style, or if you're starting from the ground up trying to figure out what exactly it is and where to go from there, this book has you covered. So it goes into the concept of being invested in fast fashion and constantly buying clothes with full wardrobes but still having nothing to wear, and how what's considered fashionable and trendy isn't always what's going to feel authentic to you. It urges you to overhaul your wardrobe so that each piece is something you love 100% without reservations, whether it be fit, fabric, style, etc. And encourages you to invest in perfect pieces you adore completely that are high quality so they will survive you through multiple seasons versus getting the latest fast fashion trend that won't survive more than a few wears. The book itself is set up almost like a workbook, taking you step by step through its philosophy and method for curating your personal style and wardrobe, starting with helping you find style inspiration and curating the concept of your vibe, finding out what specifically about certain aesthetics and pieces that you're drawn to give you a foundation for moving forward. Then it encourages you to try on anything and everything you think you like conceptually so that you can fine-tune your IRL preferences before actually buying anything. It also emphasizes the need of tailoring your wardrobe to fit your current life realistically and making sure that you have plenty of clothes for the scenarios and situations that you're actually going to be in, as opposed to items that are for things that you ideally want to do but that's realistically never going to happen, and making sure that your clothing is comfortable and versatile for the life that you actually lead. They propose that you want your wardrobe full of somewhat cohesive and interchangeable items instead of a bunch of pieces that are cool individually but you have nothing else to wear them with. It also teaches you how to buy new pieces to overhaul your wardrobe in ways that are going to be productive for the long haul, instead of you just panic buying a whole new wardrobe that you're not entirely enthusiastic about and just ending up back in square one. There are styling tips as well as shopping tips, including the importance of being a conscious consumer and getting yourself out of the vicious cycle of buying pieces that you're not entirely into simply because they're readily available and inexpensive, and instead focusing only on buying pieces that you truly love and are decent quality at a variety of price points. So as you can tell, this book is definitely chocked full of information, activities, and advice. It very, very much reads kind of like a workbook or a textbook, giving you specific prompts on what it suggests you to do, as well as giving you a wealth of information for you to apply in your real life. I do genuinely believe that there is a ton of legitimately useful and applicable information within this book. However, I personally have not followed it to a T in the sense of it being a workbook kind of style, giving you specific instructions, because quite frankly, it just does not work for my particular lifestyle in the particular situation that I'm in. But there's still so much information that's applicable that it has definitely helped me in the curation of my wardrobe, but not necessarily page by page with how they tell you to do it. Because quite frankly, it's just not realistic for everybody. The book definitely is written with the assumption that you're going to be able to replace pieces in your wardrobe and invest in pieces that are going to last you long term. And while it is definitely true that in the long run, it'll be cheaper for you to invest in higher quality pieces that are going to last you longer, a lot of people just genuinely don't have the money up front to be able to invest in a piece. And that's why so many people, especially on the lower end of the wealth spectrum, are so caught up in fast fashion. It's not because they're invested in the current trends and want what's like new and next and now. It's because that's genuinely all they can afford. Most people who are on the lower end of the wealth spectrum would love to be able to curate their wardrobe exactly the way they want with high quality pieces that are going to last the rest of their lifetime. But that requires having the money to be able to invest in that, which a lot of people just genuinely don't have. So I definitely think that the book could have been a bit more mindful of that kind of topic. And it's definitely not written in a way to where it, makes you feel bad for not being in that position necessarily. I just know I am somebody who's in the position where I cannot afford to invest in very, very high quality pieces. So that's why I tend to shop at places that sell more fast fashion items. But that doesn't mean that you can't find pieces that you genuinely love and enjoy and that will be able to last you for certain periods of time. They just might not be as technically high quality as others. But going along with that idea, the book does also go into the fact that sometimes higher quality and higher price are not always the same thing. That you can sometimes find very high quality items for very moderate prices, and sometimes things that are very, very expensive aren't made well. So there is definitely a bit of wiggle room when it comes to wealth and the application of being able to overhaul your wardrobe. I just would have liked it to have been a little bit more of a discussion topic instead of reading this book and being like, well, I can't do anything because I don't have money. The book also operates under the assumption that you have the privilege of having the availability to be able to shop around and try on different pieces, whereas a lot of people don't have that time in their lives to be able to shop around and do things that aren't exact necessities because of their particular lifestyle. And there are other people who don't have the privilege of having their sizes sold in store, especially when it comes to different proportioned peoples and especially when it comes to plus sizes. So like, for example, if I wanted to follow the exact instructions of this book, I wouldn't be able to because what's available to me in person that fits in my size is extremely minimal to non-existent. Most places only sell plus sizes online, and it's not exactly like you can just buy a bunch of stuff online to try on and return at will without having that money up front, and still like it defeats the purpose of having you shop around and try things on in person because you're not sure if you're actually going to like them in real life or not. So definitely go into the book knowing that it comes from a little bit of a place of privilege when it comes to sizing and time and wealth. Not in a way to where it feels pretentious or entirely alienating. I could definitely just see some people getting a little bit discouraged at some of these topics. And while the book is neutral enough, it's definitely aimed more with a feminine side with the particular examples and styling tips that they include. And I would have loved for it to have been a little bit more neutral or have some more masculine examples, because there are so many different ways to express your style across multiple different genders, and I would have loved to have seen the book reflect that a little bit more instead of it feeling very high femme, because even in the examples that they use to be a little bit more neutral, still definitely had that more delicate feminine edge to it, which is absolutely fine for whoever's style that is. Like, that's fantastic. But I think that this book could have reached a much larger audience had it been a little bit more neutral or have a little bit more masculine items thrown in and acknowledged the different ways that gender expression and presentation can tie into your style and fashion. And now I feel really bad because I feel like I had a lot of negatives to say, which aren't necessarily negatives. It's kind of just notes to you as the reader to be aware that those are involved, or in a lot of cases not involved, within the book, which doesn't make it a bad book. It just makes it not the most relatable or applicable to everybody who may want to pick it up. But like I said, I do very genuinely believe that there is a ton of very, very useful information within the book, and I definitely don't think it will have wasted anybody's time by reading it, especially if you're the type of person who has trouble curating their wardrobe and their personal style and aesthetic. I definitely think that this has a ton of tips that can very, very greatly benefit you. And just as a side note, the aesthetic design of the book, it's very clean lines and minimalist and somewhat neutral colors with like the slightest feminine edge, but for the most part it's a bit more neutral in the graphic design at least, and just absolute A+. Would love to commend the graphic designer of this particular book. I do definitely look at it and be like, that's not necessarily my aesthetic. It's not such a dramatic aesthetic to where I'm like, oh, that's like not going to be relatable to me at all. It's just like, oh, okay, you know, neutral. It's going to appeal to a large amount of people. Like, I get it. So yeah, just would love to see more books designed like this, because it's just A+, very, very pretty, very, very well formatted, and makes it easier to read through. And this is actually my second or third time reading the book now. I have definitely like read through it multiple times. Every time that I want to like give a bit of a revamp or overhaul of my wardrobe because I'm like, I hate everything that I own, I need something new, I definitely go ahead and give it a read just to like refresh my mind about like how I want to curate my aesthetic and making sure that like if I'm able and capable to at the time, I want to invest in more specific pieces that I love 100% versus just buying the easiest option or things that I'm only partial about. And there's definitely like a lot of very, very useful information that I would very highly recommend to just about anybody. That's very, very helpful even if you don't plan on following the activities and the philosophy and method to a T. I definitely, the first time I read through it, tried to follow it, and I even like almost did an entire video produced that was like me following this method. But at the end of the day, it just really did not work in the way that it was supposed to, simply because I am not in the most like free and available living situation. I definitely share my space with a lot of other people and definitely don't have the wealthiest source of finances. So I definitely had a lot of limitations that prevented me from following it to a T, but it was still incredibly useful and is definitely one that I continue to read again and again whenever I feel that inspiration to change up my wardrobe. So I would definitely recommend the book. Just keep in mind some of the topics that I brought up and know that it may not be the perfect book for you, but it's definitely one of the better pieces that I've read with advice about how to curate your own style and wardrobe. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I had a blast hanging out with y'all. Peace.